Welcome back to another episode of the Canon, where I bring the latest in comic book and superhero movie news. I'm your host, Terry, and I'm ready to bring you stuff that matters. So today we got news from all the big movies coming out and all the big studios. So just want to remind you to go to the description section. You can jump around to different stories that you want to see, skip around to whatever interests you. But starting out, we got news from Fox in the world of X-Men. Simon Kinberg, producer, writer, and extraordinaire all around, has been officially announced as the director for the Dark Phoenix movie. We also got announced that it's going to be set in the early 90s. We got the cast from Days of Future Past and everything else coming back, including Jennifer Lawrence, James McAvoy, and Michael Fassbender. And also Jessica Chastain is in talks to play the villain Lilandra. So, lot of news. So I'm going to keep most of it. Simon Kinberg, I definitely keep. Like I said, he's wrote on most of these movies. He produced on all these movies. He's been big for Fox for many years. So him and Bryan Singer kind of work hand in hand. I'm starting to hear X-Men Apocalypse wasn't popular with fans. I absolutely loved it. And I think one of the amazing things they did was set up the end where they had those costumes from the 90s TV show, and it felt like we were going into that 90s X-Men. And so now that we know Dark Phoenix is in the 90s, you can start right in the mall scene with Jubilee, and it'll feel just like the TV show. So all that's good stuff. Jennifer Lawrence coming back. I would sweep that if that was the only news. I'm not excited for her. I don't think anybody is. She really phoned it in as Mystique in the last movie. Her head or whatever, her ego, something's gotten too big for these type of roles where she just felt like this is not what I want to do. We heard about the contract saying that she doesn't want to be in that blue makeup for this amount of time. So most of the movie, Mystique, who stood for mutant pride and be who you are, was so busy walking around as a normal human being instead of her blue skin. So that ruined her storyline. It just, yeah. So I'm not down for her. And I understand they took her in a different direction where she wasn't a villain at the end of Days of Future or X-Men Apocalypse. And she was helping the X-Men. But I'm done with Jennifer Lawrence. She doesn't want to do it. We don't want to see her do it. Let her move on. Jessica Chastain. She's talented, and it's a good pick. Now, here's the weird part. Lilandra, if you're familiar with the Dark Phoenix and all that, she is named the villain, but in the actuality, she wasn't the villain. Those were the people trying to destroy the Dark Phoenix because they knew about the powers and what it could do. And so, while it might come off as a villain because she's trying to take out Jean Grey, she's not actually a villain. She's actually somebody that Professor X falls in love with. So I like that idea of bringing her in because she's super talented. I like that they're bringing, and I can't remember, I want to say the Starjammers, but I like that they're bringing in that whole group. But Jessica Chastain to me is like Poison Ivy. Like she's perfect Poison Ivy or something else. I just feel like Jessica Chastain has such a bigger role out there for her where it's like kind of like Oscar Isaac, where you're like, man, you don't want to waste your one shot in the superhero universe with a character that isn't going to be that great. Like, Apocalypse could have went on and on and on, but they decided to kill him. So it's like, really, you wasted Oscar Isaac for that when he could have been something else. And then like Idris Elba plays Heimdall for Thor, and it's like, oh man, he could have been Jon Stewart. So I don't want to fall into that situation where Jessica Chastain does this. And she'll do great, but it's like, man, she really could have been somebody else. So I believe it's Jessica Chastain that's doing Painkiller Jane, which is another shoot comic. So that'll be cool. So she'll have her chance there, but I feel like she just could have been somebody else. But overall, I'm excited. Simon Kinberg. I feel like it was bogus that Fox took so long to announce he's the director. And, he's the guy that's deserved it, that's put in work. So I feel like they could have did that earlier. But now, all said and done, we got release dates, all that. It seems like it's coming together. And unfortunately, that means Jennifer Lawrence. Alright, so the next bit of news, which is also unfortunate. You had Chief Creative Executive, whatever you want to call him, Jeff Johns, for the DCU over at Warner Brothers, was talking in the interview, talking about the future of DCU, where he basically said, going forward, we're going to focus on the characters. We just want to make the movies fun. We want to focus on hope, optimism, heroics, and just have a fun movie. I can't sweep anything harder than this whole thing. Now, if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know DCU is a hot button topic with me. Even down to the fact that people call it DCEU. That's stupid. It's DCU. So, I mean, I have so much to say. But basically, people gotta understand, like, if you didn't like the DC movie so far, okay, I can, that's your opinion, I can get with that. But to just point out it's dark, I think that's such a cop-out and weak answer that a lot of Marvel fanboys and a lot of casual people that throw out, it's dark, it's so dark. Like, dark and gritty doesn't equal a bad movie. And so dark themes or deeper themes does not equal a bad movie. I think what it is people gotten so used to their idea of what a superhero movie is. Because I work with students at school, and I had students tell me Logan was terrible. And I was like, why? It's because it wasn't a good superhero movie. Now, if you've seen Logan, you know it plays a lot more like an indie movie. Where, it's gruesome and it's dark, but it's really more about the characters. And they was like, oh, it wasn't a superhero movie. No costumes, no this, that. And so, Logan was an amazing movie. Might get nominated. And for people, casual fans, to think that movie sucked, I think there's a problem. I got people that don't like Wonder Woman, like said it was horrible. Why? Not enough action in it. Like, okay, like, for me, it's like there's genres. I get it. Like, you see the material, it fits in this genre. But overall, it's art. You got to take a movie for what it is and just take, what they give you and evaluate it on that. Not come in and say, okay, this is what the movie's supposed to be. Let me watch it. That's not what it was. That movie sucks. You didn't create the movie. So you watch the art and you judge it off what it gave you. You don't really judge it. I mean, if you got it and said, that didn't work for me, I didn't like this, that, whatever. Fine, that's your opinion. But when you just say it's dark, it's not a superhero movie. How can you say what it's supposed to be? It's a form of art. So people really fall into, okay, Marvel, this is the way we want it. And whenever it's not like that, it's automatically trash. Which is stupid to me because you got Civil War, which had a lot more colors, brightness, I know. But literally almost the same story from Batman versus Superman. And so when you go into deeper themes, you go into psychological themes, or you go into moral dilemmas, and to say that that's gritty and it's dark and so it makes the movie bad, but yet you praise a movie on the other side that does the same thing, but they said some jokes in between. They had colorful costumes. And so that's the whole thing that goes back with the color grade. Oh, it's so dark. Oh, why is there no color? I get it's a visual medium, but man, look at the story, look at the acting, look at the cinematography. That's so much more than just what color it is. And so the content itself's got to be something. And there's a lot more people coming on the side of BVS and Man of Steel now that they've had time to watch it and see the director's cut. But from opening day, I don't see how you can watch those movies and just dismiss them out of hand. Unless you didn't like the execution or whatever, fine. But to sit there and say, that's not my Superman, or that's not what it should have been, that's hard. They had an interpretation of the character and of the material, and you just got to see what they did with it. And I personally absolutely love it. Suicide Squad is not the best movie, but I have a lot of fun with it. That's the movie I rewatched the most. And so people just act like fun has to be the thing. And I get you trying to make money, but look at movies that win Oscars. Movies that are big hits with critics. Not all of those are rewatchable. I was talking about that, this past week in rewatchability, and it's like a movie can be great and not be rewatchable. There's some movies people don't ever want to watch again. Some people don't ever want to watch Moonlight again that won Best Picture. Doesn't make it automatically a bad movie. I know you want to make money and all that, but it's like, movies don't have to be fun. They can be deep thinkers. They can be darker. They can be grittier. They can be more realistic. And so it sucks for me as a fan because I don't want to see everybody conform to what Marvel does. Marvel does what they do well, and I like watching Marvel, but I like having different options, and that I like seeing that DC dug deeper. They go a little more psychological. And so it's just sad because even Wonder Woman, this was the movie way for the optimistic hero. The hero that left man for 100 years and didn't help them because she saw how evil they were during the war. How she didn't help Steve Trevor because she thought he was just as bad and didn't deserve her help. Yeah, that's real hopeful and optimistic. She was naive. That's not optimism. And so by the end of the movie, the story, the whole, not the plot, but the whole message was the same as the rest of the DCU movies, which is humans are duality. They have duality, and that there's dark and light, and there's some dark things that go on. So people out there saying Wonder Woman is this and that, like people saying it's colorful and hopeful, yet other people saying how dark the movie was after they left Themyscira. So it's like people just make up whatever they want for their argument. It was a good movie. It was about a woman, and it had a little more jokes, so people want to automatically put it on a different level than BVS and Man of Steel. Like, see, this is how you do it. It wasn't much different. Zack Snyder did a lot of the action scenes in that movie, so it's a lot to get into, but I have to sweep it. I can't boycott because I got to do the reviews and stuff, but if DC really just goes 180, it's going to be hard for me to support them going forward, to be honest. Alright, so with that news out of the way, jumping over to Marvel. So Chris Evans was doing an interview, and he was basically talking about why he extended his contract to do Avengers 4. And he was saying basically that this is the story that's going to wrap everything up. He said that that Marvel asked him to continue his contract because they have so many characters it won't fit in one movie, so they need a second part. And he said that the story wraps everything up. That's why he signed on. I'm going to keep it. People, the writing's on the wall. As much as you don't want to admit it, the things Chris Evans has said in the past and recently, he's not coming back. Captain America is most likely going to die. They probably won't kill him in a way that's, death nail. They might do it in an ambiguous way. Maybe you don't see the body, or they can bring him back later. But it seems like Chris Evans is done with the MCU after the last Avengers movie. So get ready for that. I mean, I don't think he should be stuck in the Captain America role. He wants to direct. He wants to do indie movies. Let him go do what he wants to do. I know some people are like, why would you ever leave that? It's like, some people are artists. Some people like challenges. Some people got other stories to tell than just doing the same old cookie cutter thing that Marvel does. And while it works, it makes money, he had fun, he wants to do something else. And if you haven't seen Gifted with Chris Evans, I'm buying that movie as soon as it comes on DVD. He is amazing in that movie. He's got more talent than being Captain America. And our last piece of news is over in Sony, which kind of connects to MCU. You had Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, come out and confirm that Venom is not a part of the MCU. So I'm going to keep this. Now, I brought this up because I've been saying for so long and people just don't seem to get it. Some people just really believe that Sony is trying to make a fake Spider-Man universe where it's a bunch of Spider-Man characters but no Spider-Man. So, understand that while Spider-Man Peter Parker is in the MCU, part of the contract with Disney, he's still owned by Sony. And so it's not like Sony can't use him in their own movies. Now, part of the contract might say, hey, while he's in MCU, you can't do this. But we haven't heard anything like that. And if it was that way, I don't think Sony would start up a whole Spider-Man universe. So from what I can tell, it seems as if they want to establish the surrounding characters. And then once the contract is done between Disney and Sony, bring Spider-Man into that universe and connect it together. If that's not the case where they can't use him, then maybe just cameo him in Venom, cameo him in Black Cat, or whatever the case is, so that you're not putting him in the forefront, but you're letting people know, oh, he's still around. So, I mean, being part of the MCU just means you're not having characters around and everything. When you talk about Netflix, Marvel, they're part of the MCU, but you never see anybody from the MCU. So for all intents and purposes, nobody thinks Netflix is a part of the MCU. So if you got movies where nobody mentions is Tony Stark and all that, and it's just Tom Holland Spider-Man, like, no one's going to be like, oh my God, why isn't this connected with this and that? It's just like, okay, it's its own thing. And Sony owns Spider-Man. So I think people are going a little crazy. We knew Venom wasn't part of the MCU. Neither is Black Cat or any of those other movies. But that doesn't mean they won't have Spider-Man, either eventually or in a cameo role. At least that's what I think. Alright, so that's the news for today. Go to the comments section. Let me know what you thought. Like, thumbs up, subscribe. And if you heard it here, it's official canon.